Hi, my name is Alexandra Youatt. Today's session is about adult learning theory through Generation Z's eyes, adapting educational practices for the modern learner. And I'm an instructional designer with GCE. So thank you all for being here today. And because we're a 25-minute session, I'm going to just jump right in as long as I have the okay from Holly. I'm assuming we're good there. Okay. So to get started, I just kind of wanted to have a basis. So if you want to scan the QR code over here and kind of let me know like where you stand for adult learning theories. I'm an expert, I'm knowledgeable, I'm familiar, or I'm unaware. And I'll give about a minute for that. And then I'll kind of see where you guys are so that we can move forward. I'll put a minute on right now. This myself to make sure it's working for you all. All right, so here we are. We've got quite a few that are knowledgeable, which is going to be great. We can slide through that and maybe just focus more on the Gen Z part. And then a couple here that are unaware, but I do have a lot of cited work in here for you to return to, and I have provided my slides to the institution for you to refer to later. Okay, so here we are. We're going to go over 4 of the adult learning theories today: andragogy, transformative learning, experiential learning, and social learning. And we're going to do this with the Gen Z twist. And keeping that in mind, if you just want to scan the Padlet here so that I could get your one-word definition of what Gen Z is to you. So if you had to describe the Gen Z learner in one word, what would that be? And I will chime in myself as well. And then I'm going to want to let everybody kind of see what we have going on here. And there we go. So we have inquisitive, inspired, interesting, bold, outgoing, adaptable, curious, innovative, searching. Very nice. And then I have on the next slide for us a visual that kind of goes over the Gen Z. And you can see some of these things might be what you had placed, right? These, and earlier in the presentations, we talked about how we were going to be changing jobs over time. Like they say that the Gen Z might inquire anywhere from like 17 different jobs in a lifetime and like 15 different homes. They are so far the most educated in 1 and 2. They spend a lot of time learning visually, and they're more of the learner where we would say why, they would say, or we would say what, they would say why. Why does that work? So moving forward. Basically, when we get down to it, when we used to hide our diaries, Gen Z hits the post and they do it loudly and proudly, right? They are a generation known for inclusivity and diversity. They're very entrepreneur. Like they don't need a path. They will create their own paths. And again, they are the most educated generation yet. So what does that mean when we're teaching them? When we look into the first pedagogical theory for adult learning, we have Knowles' andragogy, right? And when it comes to Gen Z, Knowles really focuses on learning being self-directed. So for a Gen Z learner, this translates into the need for autonomy and learning at their own pace, which we've seen a lot of courses now that they're self-directed. They have online platforms where you have discussion, but you might post in on a Tuesday and the person might reply to you on like a Friday, right? There's a lot of flexibility in their types of learning. When it comes into the world, I'm going to move my things around here. Real world practices, these are courses that are personalized, right? You're going to see a lot of different platforms, modules, topics, and flexibility. So while those all give you examples, here's just one prime understanding. If I wanted to teach you something about the Knowles andragogy self-directed part of learning, I could present it to you in a Quizlet where you could do it in flashcards and learn through rote memorization. You could do it through an article where you learn through case studies and information, or you could do it through a video on YouTube. And these would be different ways for the Gen Z to kind of absorb that information. And again, these are going to be present in our in the PowerPoint that I provided, that where you can go through and scan them. But for time today, I just want to make sure that we're staying on track. So here, talking about flexibility and interactive quizzes for Gen Z, right? When we're using Knowles self-directed, one really popular way is through gamification. So I'm going to move my little picture over here, and I'm going to allow you guys to scan this really fun QR code. When you scan it, I'm going to give you a code in just a moment to enter, and you guys are going to play live against each other a game to kind of figure out how well you know Gen Z. So this is just kind of an example of what you're going to see, like question-wise. And this site is called GimKit, and I'm going to continue with the normal, just kind of cash out Supreme mode, and then show you some options that you have that are fun. And we'll take this to let's do a 2-minute game. Okay. And here we go. So you've scanned, let me move this out of the way a little bit. So if you need to get that scan again. So you're going to scan this QR code, and then from there, you're going to put in this game code. And once my players start to arrive, I will start the game. And if I start the game and you haven't chimed in yet, you could still join later. I made it to an option where you can join even after the game has started. All right. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start. If you haven't scanned in yet, don't worry, you can still join the game. So this is your leaderboard as you're playing in class, right? That will show you where your students are in answering. And then you do have some options as a presenter or a teacher as well that are kind of fun. I'm trying to get to them. 1 second. Okay, so I'm going to go full screen here. I might disappear for a second. If you need to end the game early, you'd hit this. And usually, I don't have it right now, but usually you have an option to where, I should have set it in my settings, to where like, if you see a student who's struggling, you could potentially give them like a 10% raise in cash so that they can continue. If you see a student that maybe is being a little bit arrogant or pompous or not as kind to others with their leading, you can also deduct them by 10%. You can blur students' screens out, so it kind of enables them from answering questions. And then as the students collect money and they earn money, they can sabotage each other. So they could go in and like purchase from their store like a freeze screen or a lock code or a blur screen or like a set on time, like or take money from one another. I hope you're having fun with this. It looks like you guys are. We got about 4 seconds till we find our winner. We have our first here, Francesca. And then second, Reagan, and third, Chris. Nice job. Nicely done. Okay. So that is one way to kind of engage your 21st century learner, right? Your Gen Z student. And now we're going to move on to the transformative learning here. Transformative learning, it highlights a significant for critical reflection, right? And being able to think and process while in the learning. So usually your lectures and things like that are not as conducive of your transformative learning format because everybody's on the same page and you're all doing the same topics. It's more of a, when we're talking about transformative learning, we're talking about an opportunity for you to reflect in real life time with the information that you're getting. So how do I do that for a Gen Zer, right? You could do interactive discussions, you could do reflective journaling, and you could do real world problem solving. A way of doing this virtually online is to use FigJam. So I'm going to explore this, and you'll have this to use. I put all the formatting and stuff. You'll have it in the PowerPoint. But here comes FigJam. And what's nice about FigJam is the teacher who sets it up, sets the time limit for it, right? Sets options for the student. And it's just taking a second here. And what you'll see is, okay, so I've created this thinking board. I'm going to come out a little bit. And in this thinking board, I presented three different models of the transformative learning theory, right? I have done it over here in its 10 phases, and then kind of over here, a Venn diagram, and then just a really quick definition of it. And so the students will then, and this time you'll see up here, sorry, they have like 3 minutes, and in those 3 minutes, it could also play music for them. And I set the music, so like I want the music to be aesthetic or smooth or like calming, right? To promote thinking. And then they're going to use these Post-its to say something like, okay, this is what I like, this is what I wish, and this is what I wonder. So they get to, and everybody is inside in the FigJam, putting in their thoughts and being able to reflectively think. This is a great way to get people engaged online. All right. Next. Now we're going to go on to experiential learning for Generation Z. And for Generation Z, experiential learning is learning by experience. So if any of you had the opportunity to go to today's, I think it's like Hop a Tour, it was incredible, right? You're going into another country, you're experiencing it, the guide is walking you around, you're talking to them. When we're trying to accomplish these things online, that is a great option. And then there's also simulations. We have like a lot of online simulations, hands-on activities for online, and project-based learning. Project-based learning is one of my favorites. I feel like when you use project-based learning, the curriculum itself kind of naturally unfolds everything that is needed for 21st century learning. So looking at some of those for Gen Z, a lab experiments, virtual simulations, and collaborative projects, right? You could use FigJam for one of your collaborative projects. They also, I'm going to show you another one, but FigJam is a place where like you can set up a board for each class or each project, and then they are incorporating their pieces, right? So you would see like who's input in certain information. It's like a brainstorm or think. Another way of accomplishing this is to explore, I don't know if you guys have heard of Nearpod. Nearpod is another hands-on activity simulation. And just for the sake of time, I'm going to quickly walk you through a version of Nearpod and how it works. So here I could do class-based, project-based learning. I would want to teach it, right? And I could either do live participation, or I could put this to the students as a self-paced project, right? But Nearpod basically has lots of different lessons and hands-on activities for you. You could search through this window. You could do it by grade level. They have higher education as well. And you can basically help students become more engaged online. All right, keeping with my time here. The social learning theory and Generation Z. So I feel like this actually came with Generation Z. And this is utilizing social media, online forums, and group projects that can enhance their learning experience by providing opportunities to peers and a learning network. So I like to provide what it would be real world situations again for you guys. Excuse me, so sorry, here we go. So again, we could have a Flipgrid classroom. Flipgrid is a really good online tool where the students make video clips and then share them back and forth with each other. There's Facebook, right? Peer groups that can be created. The collaborations through WIC projects, and then Twitter hashtags, your YouTube channels, and Instagram learning. Okay, so some of the things that we did today to make this interactive and keep it going was we used Mentimeter, which is another poll. And you could do lots of different types of polling through there. We use Padlet, we use Gimkit, we use FigJam, and we use Nearpod. So I'm going to open it up now in our last couple minutes to see if you guys have any questions. I went through that really fast, but I wanted to make sure that I had time, honored your time to see if there was anything that you wanted me to explain further. Let's see, what is your favorite online tool with students and what is created? My favorite online tool with students, I really do enjoy Gimkit because Gimkit has a variety of game options on it. Let me get back to that slide and show you the different kinds of things that you can do with Gimkit. You can assign it as homework, or you can assign it as whole class play. So the original game I gave you was just the cash out game, but a lot of these kids are really great masters at video games. So you can play like Trust No One, which is a version of I forget of that game. Among Us, yes. And then you do like Fishtopia, Don't Drop, which is kind of a little bit like our old school games of Mario when you're jumping around. They have a lot of really great fun gaming features. There's the snowball game where kids throw snowballs at each other, snowball survival, like oh, you could also in the class, you could set up like, okay, we're going to do everybody who was born between January and June, and then everybody July through December, and you can have them play against each other. Like you can literally set them up in teams. And then you can use what was already fabricated on Gimkit. You could search their library. Let me go back here. You can search their library, or you can create your own Gimkit. So like you can create it based off the questions that you've had on a quiz or preparing or anything like that. In the library, you can literally type anything. So you could say like, oh, I've got a little bit of a lag here. Let's say math for second grade. And it will give you a review questions for math for second graders. And like, there's just a bunch that you can go through. It might go in the content, might go 400 questions for the end of the year math for second grade. You could do it for science, you could do it for social studies, you could do it for medical. I actually used a Gimkit to help me study for a state test. Let's see, what have you found with professional development? So yes, so as far as with professional development, when I am trying to learn a new pedagogy or new learning theory, we learn just as well through gamification too. And there have been a lot of really amazing educators who've gone in and made Quizlets or Gimkits. And so I search for those when I am doing my own professional development or when I'm presenting for professional development, and kind of make it a little bit more fun and interactive for them. And there's so many options now beyond Kahoot that are just amazing. Can you say more about it in the US? So okay, so my perspective on Gen Z students in the US is that what I'm finding, what I'm seeing is that generations before seemed like they last so long, right? But now these generations, the technology is evolving so quickly. So whereas where one generation might have perceived something as common knowledge, another generation doesn't understand that at all. So I find that as an educator, as a coach, and as a professional, for me, it's a lot of stop and observe the Generation Z and kind of understand it's a lot of social cues, like looking at their face, like understanding of them, like are they grasping that? Are they really trying to be facetious, or they really just don't understand? So for example, is one of the older teachers in my more experienced teachers had told another student to put it in the ice box, and the student literally put the item in the freezer and not the refrigerator, because to them they associated ice with the freezer. And afterwards she was like, why would you put our stuff in the freezer? And the student was like, well, you said put it in the ice box. So it's just a lot that comes with teaching Generation Z, and it's stepping back more and being more of an observer and kind of trying to put yourself in their shoes, because for what we think is so common and easy to them is not so common and easy, and vice versa. Like we'll pick up a phone or do something and they're looking at us like, what are you doing? Like, that's not how you use that at all. Why aren't you pushing this button? And they are just as confused with us. All right. So it doesn't look like, do we have any more questions? Is there any application that you guys might want me to show you in a little bit more depth for Generation Z, or?
It looks like we just have one last question about researchers with Gen Z.
Oh, yeah. So there's a lot of research on Gen Z. Let me get to that slide where I'm going to go over that. I really wish I hadn't put this bar on the bottom. Okay. So a lot of the research on Gen Z shows that they are fast-paced, right? That they're entrepreneurial, that they crave education, but again, their education not necessarily needing to be the path that one would think, right? So like that's why we do have a lot of things like micro-credentials coming out and certifications, and it moving more to like a tech world. They also are very much screen driven. And so some of the drawbacks from that is trying to engage them when they are so screen driven. And it's a little bit difficult to get them to articulate. However, what they can't articulate, they can create. So a lot of times when my student is struggling to try to get their message across in words, I might ask them to create something for me, like show me what you mean. And what they create can be phenomenal. And oftentimes it kind of takes me back, and I have to be like, wow, that is what you were thinking. Like it's incredible what you could ask them to do on the screen, so that they're stepping away from maybe watching the screen so much. Yeah. Oh, so Instagram Learner, they make groups. Actually, I'm going to be real honest with you. The students actually create their own Instagram learning groups. And if we don't help them figure out how to make this productive, then they usually do it in a manner that's a little bit deceiving a bit. So like I've had students that were making online Insta groups of basically everything that you would learn in one person's core content. So they would call it like Spanish 1-2, and then they would share everything, right? And so initially it took me by surprise, and I was very like, oh man. But then I thought to myself, if we don't jump on the bandwagon of this and help them learn how to share the proper things, then they're always just going to be using it as a back channel. So Instagrams are great for like foreign language classes, and then posting they're trying to use the language, or posting having an experience, or going to a restaurant, or adapting something that they've learned from the classroom out into the real world. All right, so thank you guys so much for attending. I really appreciate it. All this content, I have left the slides with the university so that you can go through the research. It's all cited here. You can go through the links, test them out. try the new material, and then have a little bit more time to digest all of those real world applications that I provided here for you with Gen Z.